Richard, I would love to jump in and start off with you explaining what things were like a while ago, before you'd heard about me and before you'd heard about the program.
Okay, so before I heard about the program and before I decided really that I needed to take action in a lot of areas of my life, I guess really the best way of describing it is that I felt I was in a bit of a rut. I kind of felt like I was making no progress, very little movement in terms of where I saw myself going in life. And I'd say I really felt burnt out. And I'd say it wasn't the first time in the last number of years that I felt that way. Kind of in the last 5 years, I kind of felt I was kind of nearly going through a cycle of burnout, and then I'd kind of improve a little bit again, and maybe I'd make some progress in terms of different projects that I was involved in, and even just in my approach or my attitude towards kind of life. And then I'd kind of fall back again. And I really felt like I needed something to kind of, in many ways, nearly drag me up out of that rut that I was in. So I felt, in many ways, I felt like I had no clarity around where I kind of wanted to see my life going. I felt, in many ways, kind of directionless. I really wanted kind of to put together some sort of plan. Like, I mean, I'm great for writing lists and then not taking action on them. So I would have had lots of lists and things to do. But if I was to look back at those lists after 6 months, I'd actually have achieved very little on them because I wouldn't have been ticking off many things. And I guess in some ways, finding myself kind of outside of work about 3 months ago or thereabouts, I didn't want that to continue, and I wanted to kind of take some definitive action to try and put that right. So that's really where I was at a few months back.
And what did you do for a living?
So I'm a secondary school teacher, and as a result of the coronavirus and the school closures, I would have found myself at home and working from home, and that was fine to an extent, but I just really felt that I needed a push to get myself into gear and get myself into action. I kind of felt that in many respects in life, career-wise, but also kind of personally as well, I was kind of finding myself not very motivated, lacking energy in a lot of respects, and it was going from week to week and then month to month, and 6 months would turn into a year, and that was kind of the way I was for the last 3 or 4 years. I've just finished a college course. I was doing a college course when I made contact with you 2 months ago, and one of the reasons I made contact with you was because I found myself like that too, having little motivation in terms of getting my college assignments completed. So I found that one of the areas in my life that I was not really dealing with very well. So I wanted to kind of really focus on that, and I suppose make sure that I completed that college course with a kind of a commitment and a determination that I normally would have done. Like, I've done college courses before. The last college course I did was 5 years ago, and I wouldn't have felt that sort of sense of kind of lack of motivation or lack of kind of clarity about where I wanted to go. So yeah, there was the college course, and I also felt as well that in another area of my life, which was exercise, that I wasn't really committing to regular exercise. And I had done before because I had lost quite a lot of weight a number of years back. But then I suffered an accident just over a year ago, and I had to have an operation on my shoulder. Now, thankfully, the operation went well and it all worked out, but I then didn't get back to exercise as quickly as I'd like to have. So when my physiotherapy was over and everything else, I, again, like that too, I was finding it very difficult to get back into a routine of regular exercise and feeling good about myself. So there were the two reasons. When I contacted you, the two things that I really had in mind that I wanted to work on and really turn my life around were in terms of physical exercise and how I approached my college course, and procrastinating on things like assignments and written work. So there were the two big areas. Not so much. I mean, I would be quite satisfied with my job, although I was doing it in a very different way from home. So maybe the motivation there to do it from home wasn't quite as high as it would have been if I was in work and in school, because I think as a teacher, you expect to be there with your students, on a daily basis, and it's very different to be teaching from home. And I think certainly in this country, we're not really set up for remote teaching, and that's definitely one of the learning curves that has come out of this whole crisis. Um, but in general respects, I would have been quite happy with that aspect of my life. And it was the college work and the exercise that really, for me, I wanted to deal with.
And why did you decide to reach out to me and time theory instead of someone or somewhere else?
Yeah, I had gone to my local gym, for instance, in relation to the exercise, and I had booked a program consultation with an instructor in the gym about 2 weeks before the closure. So all the gyms closed down, so that wasn't going to happen for a while, and I wouldn't be able to go to the gym. And one thing that I really, really enjoy is swimming, and the pools were closed down as well. So I kind of felt that those kind of things were taken away from me, and I was going to have to do something different. Um, I I think a lot of it was that when I found myself at home and looking at different videos online, I would never have really been one for just sitting down and scrolling through YouTube videos kind of mindlessly. But I did get into that kind of habit when I found myself at home with more time in my hands. But you know what? That kind of had a silver lining, because I did stumble then across your work, and I guess I was searching for that because if I was to look for videos online, a lot of my interest would lie in kind of self improvement, productivity, looking how to better yourself. I Not that I'd necessarily be one for reading lots of self help books, but I would like to. I was always interested in finding ways, in terms of improving myself and my career as well. So I just happened to stumble across your video. Now I stumbled across many videos, but I think for me, the difference probably was the review videos, the reviews of um, a lot of the people who had already gone through the program. For me, that kind of just kind of struck a chord, I guess. And while you're very persuasive yourself, and that's obviously quite important, I think the testimonials were huge, a huge kind of influence on my decision to even book that consultation. It's not something I would have done before, and you know, this kind of a program is. It's not like buying a physical product. It's not like going on to Amazon and buying something and having it delivered to you in the post. This is something you need to really commit to. It's a financial investment, but for me, it's a huge personal investment. And I think I said this in a recent communication with you as well. It's hugely worthwhile, and I really feel that the last 7 weeks, and it did take me 7 weeks. I know the course is designed really maybe as a 5 week program, but I took my time at it. I went at my own pace, which I know is fine, of course, and it took me about 7 weeks to complete. But it's been a kind of a not just a game changer, but kind of a life changer, because my perspective now on those two issues, the exercise and the college course, have changed. The college course is actually coming to an end really now, because we submitted, I was working on a project with a group of 3 other people, and we submitted our final draft to our course tutor yesterday. So that's fantastic. But like in terms of the exercise, I've really made a huge effort at that and inroads into that. And I think a lot of it is to do with my thinking and managing my time. Like, I think one of the things you said in one of the early videos in the program was that this really isn't solely a procrastination program. It's not just about ending procrastination, and in that sense, maybe the name is misleading, because really it's about changing the way you perceive everything you do and how you use your time. So it's not just simply about ending procrastination, although that's obviously the reason I went into it, and that's been a huge benefit. But how I do things on a daily basis, how I use my time, all of that has changed completely. I would have been quite an organized person up to the time I joined the program. But it's only now in hindsight, having done the program, that I realize I wasn't quite as organized as I thought. So something as simple as doing the plan tomorrow today in my Google Calendar, that's been just unbelievably kind of eye-opening in terms of how I organize my day, how I organize my week, and how the last couple of months have panned out for me. I just can't stress that really enough. That has been just fantastic. The whole time blocking thing. For me, one of the things I would have found difficult was sitting down and getting a substantial amount of work done in a period of time. And the simple act of putting it into the calendar, removing the phone and removing the distraction, and creating that friction I think you talk about between myself and the phone, for instance, putting the phone away. But the only thing I would use the phone for there is to maybe put a timer on the phone. So if I knew I was going to work on something for an hour and a half, I would have the phone put away. I'd have it on silent, but I would have the timer set for an hour and a half, and I'd know then when the alarm goes off after an hour and a half, well, I've got that piece of work done, and I can now take a break. So I found that really, really good, the time blocking, and as well as removing the phone a lot more. I would have always done my work, even correcting copies in school, which isn't really a very good practice anyway, to have my phone beside me. But in terms of correcting copies, correcting tests, I would have always had the phone there, and I would have found it a huge distraction. So that was one thing I really kind of took your advice on and got rid of that. That's been fantastic. And even on the phone itself then, the amount of apps that I would have had easy access to. So I kind of removed all those, removed the ones I wasn't using, and ones that I still want to keep on my phone, but I don't want to use all the time, or don't want to go into every couple of hours. I've placed them in folders. So again, I've kind of created that friction between myself and the apps that I don't need to use that often. And instead of having 4 or 5 different home screens on my phone, I just have 2. And the first home screen I look at, I can see nothing, bar a lovely photograph of a holiday that I was on in Spain 5 years ago. And it's a photograph that brings back great memories. And that's what I see on my home screen. And then I swipe one screen left or right, and I've a few apps there that I need. And that has been fantastic, because I was one of those people who really, my phone was like another limb. I think we can all say that at different times, but I've really, really cut down on the amount of time that I spend on the phone. And for that reason, then I'm getting a lot more work done.
Yeah, this is really interesting for me to hear as well, because first of all, not only is this useful for the people listening to hear, to show that there's real people getting real results, but for me as well, for the feedback side of things, because the program isn't just something that I put out there and I say, right, that's the finished product. I'm always trying to identify what part of the program is working well, so I can do more of that in the next run, and what part isn't working so well, so I can get rid of that or improve upon that. And I think the point that you just touched on there kind of twigged something in my mind, where a lot of that stuff that you said is basic stuff that the people listening are thinking, I know that.
Yeah.
But I think what the program does is it puts it to the top of your mind. It takes things where would be beneficial for you, but because it's laid out in such a format, those things that will be beneficial for you actually start to get implemented on regularly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would have been one of those people who, when I saw all these things in the program and all these tools, which you say are quite basic, I would have said to myself, well, I know that, but I never, ever really put the effort and the time into implementing them. And when it's laid out in front of you quite clearly and quite simply, and you've seen it work for other people, it makes complete sense. I think you might have said in one of the videos, it's simple mathematics. It adds up, and it becomes so easy to do. Like the flow chart that you would have asked us to print off in the first couple of maybe in the first week, the only 4 things that matter. I've that printed off, and I have it placed up in 2 different spaces in my home. So I have it in my workspace, but I also have it in my bedroom. So it's one of the first things I see in the morning when I wake up, and the last thing I see at night. And I have it saved. It's actually one of the kind of icons that I have saved on my phone as well. So I open it up a couple of times a day, Oh yeah, you have it there. It's framed.
It's named.
It's framed. Yeah. So I have it, and you know the way the last one is the Kirby method.
Mhm.
For me, that like I mean, you describe it very well, but you know it's kind of the this idea that you grab whatever you need to do, you push through, you cycle through the process, and then you do it. You know, you actually take action, and it guarantees movement. Like for that, for me, that is just really, really beneficial because I kind of focus on the words there, push, right? When I think of the Kirby method, because from one of the things I would have thought to myself when I signed up to this program was I need somebody to kind of push me, or I need a push. You know, we often hear people talking about that. You know, I need a push to kind of do that thing. So when I kind of look at that poster and see the last step there being the Kirby method, I have it abbreviated into GPD, kind of grab, push, and do.
Mm.
And I'm taking a lot more action nowadays than I used to. And even something as simple as, you know, we were talking there about apps and talking about different tools, and we haven't even spoken about Notion yet. But I really want to thank you for introducing me to Notion. I use it now 3 or 4 times a day, and I think it's fantastic. But I can come back to that in a moment. But another app that I'm using is just one for simply booking my time slot in the swimming pool each day. Because now I'm not sitting at home wondering to myself, will I or won't I go for a swim? And I'm not that long back swimming since the pool's opened up, but like maybe the last week and a half, 10 days. But now that I can actually book my time slot a day in advance, so it becomes part of my plan tomorrow today. I know now, for instance, that I'm booked in for a swim tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and they close the doors maybe at about 10 past 1 because that's it. Once you're booked in, because of the restrictions, you won't get in after that time. I haven't missed a time slot yet. Whereas before embarking on this program, there was plenty of times I would have kind of sat at home thinking, I'll go tomorrow. I'll put that off and I'll go tomorrow. But but that's not serving me. You know what I mean? So even the simple act of putting that app on my phone and booking my time slot, I wouldn't have even thought of something like that kind of before the program. So really, it's about implementation and it's about executing all these things. You know, that word, I know you use it quite a lot, and it's execute, execute, execute. And, you know, it's really take action. And that, for me, that's just fantastic, you know?
And how has this changed your mental state?
It has improved greatly. I was quite worried about myself a couple of months back, in the sense that I kind of felt, because I was in this rut, and I had felt burnout before. I don't think I quite reached, you know, burnout or the end game kind of 2 months back, but I was certainly on that path. And I remember reaching burnout a number of times before, and I wouldn't have had maybe the capacity to cope with it. I wouldn't have, but really, what that means is I didn't have the coping mechanisms. I didn't have the tools that now I'm introduced to, that I know work for me, and they work for others, that I can now put into practice.
Mhm.
And even over the last 7 weeks, the number of things that I've learned as a result of the program and now put into practice, they've helped me hugely in terms of my emotional health, my mental health. I'll give you one example, one very concrete example, and it's to do with Notion. The first thing I do in the morning when I wake up is I open Notion on my phone, and I have one of the pages called my happiness log. I think you asked us to create a happiness log, and in that happiness log, I answer 3 questions, and the first question is, what am I going to focus on today? The second question is, what am I grateful for? And third question, and for some reason my mind's kind of gone blank at the moment, but I have 3 questions there. One of them is definitely, what am I grateful for? What am I going to focus on today? And I think it's the third question in a moment. But at night time, I do the very same thing. And I go back into the app at night time, and I write down one thing or I write down one example of how I used willpower in the day to push through on something. It's a bit like, it's kind of, I feel that for me, that really is using the Kirby method. How did I push through on an action that otherwise I would have procrastinated on before. So how did I use willpower today? Then I write down something that happened in the day that I find kind of story worthy, or something that is really worth remembering for the future when I look back on my day, or look back on my Notion. And the third thing at night time is I also write down again what I'm grateful for. So something that I'm grateful for that happened that day. I suppose in the morning, when I write down something I'm grateful for, I might be writing down what I'm looking forward to, and grateful of kind of a promise of what's to come in the day. And at night time, then I'll write down something that I'm grateful for that day. And I've done that fairly consistently. I'll be honest, there are 3 or 4 days maybe where I've missed the morning one for some reason, or I've missed the nighttime one, but that's kind of the last thing I do before I go to bed, and the first thing I do in the morning when I wake up. So that's one way in which I know I will use Notion twice a day, and it's really helping me in terms of my own kind of mental well-being. And that's not something I did before.
Yeah, that's great. And we've touched on the different, concepts, a few of the different apps, but what about the other support systems like your accountability partner? Did you find success with that?
I have to say I was really lucky. So again, thank you for that. I'm sure, most people have great things to say about their accountability partners, but I have to say the accountability partner that I had was just a real support, a huge support. I think out of all the supports, the ancillary supports, the one that I used most and relied on most was the accountability partner. If I was to say what would I do differently again, if I was to do this program, I would definitely use and go into the tribe a lot more. Right? I don't think I probably even yet, and the journey isn't over. Like this is still going to continue. And I did log on to the Facebook tribe today, and that's something I committed to do a lot more of. But if I was to do the program, the content again, I would recommend relying, on the tribe a lot more. I would also recommend attending the Q&A sessions with yourself. I didn't attend as many of them as I feel I should have while I was doing the program. I've listened back to most of the ones that I've missed, and they are a great resource as well. And they're a great support. But the accountability partner for me was just fantastic. We spoke on the phone every week. So we had one Zoom call every Monday or Tuesday, whichever day suited best. But generally, it was at the beginning of the week, because at least at the beginning of the week, we felt that we were both setting out on our path for the week, and we still had our goals to achieve that week. And we would spend an hour discussing how the previous week went, or things that went well for us, things that didn't go so well for us, things we found we were procrastinating on. We also discussed how we used the human behavior optimization loop, loop optimization. We discussed how we used the procrastination log. We discussed how we used the cognitive restructuring framework. So we talked through examples of different things that were going on in our lives and how we used all those tools. That was really brilliant. We'd finish up each call then by maybe setting one goal that we each wanted to achieve in the week. And in the interim then, in the time between each call, we would text each other regularly on WhatsApp, and we'd ask each other how things were going. And that, I don't think I would feel as positive or affirmative or motivated about this program if it wasn't for the element of the accountability partner. I think I really, really got as much out of that as I could. And I really optimized that support. But I'm being honest with you when I say I feel I didn't use the Facebook tribe or the Q&A sessions as much as I could have. But look, I mean, it's all relative really, isn't it, I suppose? And it's how you feel at the time as you go through it. Definitely, yeah, the accountability partner for me was fantastic.
But also, like you said, this is just the start. Those Q&A calls, you can come whenever you want to. The group and the tribe, they're still there. This is just the start of a journey, and we want to stick around and be part of this journey together in the long run. Because like you said, this is just the beginning, and there's a lot of years left to live, a lot of
absolutely
progress made. We welcome you to stick around for as long as possible.
yeah, it's not like I'm going to leave the tribe. So that's there, and the Q&A is there, and like I'm so positive about this program, and delighted that you took this on, and you've worked so hard for it as well, and all the work you've put into it. Like it really is. It's one of the. It's certainly the best thing I've ever done in terms of trying to improve my own situation in life. And like another example is where I think you in some of the Q&A sessions, I think you might have spoken about, or maybe some of the questions were about meditation and mindfulness, and you just kind of gave your own experience of how you practice mindfulness. I think maybe in your case, you like to do it maybe before you go to sleep at night or something like that. So for me, one thing that I really benefited from was taking maybe 2 minutes out 5 times in the day. And I'd have these times set on my phone as well to kind of check in with myself, to practice some breathing, and maybe to repeat a few affirmations or something like that. And I recommended that to my accountability partner as well, and he took that on board. But that for me was a game changer as well, because if we can't take 2 minutes, maybe 5 times a day, which is 10 minutes out of, I think, 1,440 minutes in the day, if we can't do that, then really, you really need to reconsider things. So that's something I do now that I wouldn't have done before. And again, it all comes back to the way I view how I use my time and my perspective on how I use my time as well, and on all the things that I want to achieve in the day. And that helps me get through the day, and it helps me achieve more, I think.
That's incredible. And final question, if you were to speak to yourself a few months ago, or you were to speak with somebody who is now in a situation that you were in a few months ago, what would you say to them?
I would say this is not about reaching a destination. This is about it's a journey, and it's realizing that we can all change, and we can all make progress, and we can all become better. And that's really what it's about. Like if 2 months ago I thought that this was going to offer me a magic bullet and solve all my problems, well, no, that's not what I got, and that's not what I wanted. But it certainly has given me the means to achieve what I want to achieve, and to become. It's given me the means to become the person that I want to be in terms of achieving my goals. I know that I'm not going to achieve all my goals all at once, but I'm the sort of person now, I feel anyway, that I'm the sort of person now that can go on to achieve those things because I've become better. I think one of the quotations you might have used at one stage was from Jim Rohn, and it was better is something you become, something like that. I think that is what I would say is one of the best things about this program, that you become a better person. We all have it within ourselves. We all have that capability. We all have that capacity to do better and to move forward in our lives. And sometimes we just need that push. And for me, that's what this program is about. And it has given me that push. And it's amazing, really amazing.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll end the public interview there. That was incredible. I'm glad that you shared that with me, because oftentimes, because of the way the program's structured, people go through the program, but you don't exactly hear exactly the experiences people that are going through. So I'm deeply grateful for you, that the fact that you shared that all with me.
Yeah, I hope some of it's okay. Yeah, exactly. Like I tried to give as much there as I could, because they were the main things that I got from it. Mm-hmm. And all of that I've said to you there, as I've said already, all of that there, I knew an awful lot of it, but it wasn't very obvious to me. It wasn't very clear to me, and I wasn't putting it into practice. And as a result of the program now, I'm putting it into practice, and it's just fantastic. And I really do mean it when I say I want to kind of use now that I'm not doing the content as such, and I'm kind of working on myself, because I'm a work in progress, let's say. I feel now maybe I have more time to give to using the tribe, and contributing maybe sometimes to the Q&A and that kind of stuff. But it's just brilliant. So thanks very much, because I often think back, Andrew, to that email that I kind of had I had kind of second thoughts that day, 2 months ago. It's 2 months ago now, actually, that I had that first phone call with you, and And then I think I emailed you fairly quickly afterwards to say, do you know what? I'll start it in 2 weeks' time. You know, like it's crazy, like, you know what I mean? I'm sure you've heard that lots of times before as well, but I'm glad I didn't leave it at that. And because where would I be now?
I know.
Do you know what I mean? And that's it, like, you know. So yeah, it's great. And I was chatting my accountability partner earlier on, Thijs, and he mentioned that I think he might be having a similar conversation with you tomorrow. Like, even to see the progress he's made for me in the last 7 or 8 weeks, it's just fantastic as well, you know. So thank you very much.